Thanks everyone for joining me. This is Doug Foresta. I could not be more happy to be here today with two of my favorite people, Michelle Vandepass and Karen Curry Parker, the co-founders of GracePoint. And I'm really excited about how you're bringing this project out into the world. So maybe first we could start with, so people that don't know you, and even people who know you may not know GracePoint. So can you say a little bit, maybe we can start with you, Karen, say a little bit about yourself. And Michelle's nodding, as I said, maybe we can start with you.
Get the hot seat, first out of the thing.
Can you say a little bit about yourself, and then maybe I'll have Michelle, you just introduce yourself, and then we can talk about GracePoint.
Awesome. Well, I am Karen Curry Parker. I've been a life coach for literally all of my adult life, and my adult life started officially at 25, just so that you know. I am a student of all things, which is, I think, part of what we're going to be talking about today. So when we start to pigeonhole people into definitions and categories, I'll tell you I'm a Renaissance Aquarian age human. How's that? Most importantly, I have been a best-selling author. I have had a couple of #1 best-selling books on Amazon. I have a practice where I teach people how to use a system of personality assessment called human design, which is part of what we work with at GracePoint. I am passionate about bringing the concept of abundance to the world. And I'm thrilled to do this in partnership with Michelle through GracePoint in all the different permutations and venues that we hope to be bringing this to the world with.
Thank you. Michelle, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Wow, that is fabulous. I'm honored to be partnered with Karen on this. I'm also a best-selling author, work with authors, TEDx speaker, and have been a business coach and entrepreneur for 30 years or so. I guess what I'm really passionate about is knowing that every single person on this planet is living their purpose, that they're already living their purpose. And I like opening the conversation about how do we bring that into work in a more conscious way and into our life in a more conscious way, so that you're not separating your life out. I commented this morning on one of Karen's great posts that we bring up our children to start living their life, and their children are already living their life. Right. And so let's start honoring all of us who are already living our lives and living in purpose in our lives. And I am thrilled to bring that, as well as 30 years of metaphysical and consciousness studies and holistic health studies and entrepreneurial studies, to GracePoint.
And so thank you so much. And of course, we mentioned GracePoint a couple of times. Can you also tell people what GracePoint is? Can you explain a little bit about what GracePoint is?
Do I get that one?
You get that one. You channeled it right in.
So one of I have to give you the backstory on it, because I think the backstory is really important. You know, as Michelle and I have both been kind of talking, it's really difficult for us to pinpoint that one thing that we do, because we are, I think, members of what we're going to talk about, which is, you know, the creative class. And as we went out into the world as members of this creative class, you know, we've tried and done just about everything. I mean, I can say for me personally, I'm a nurse by training. I've been a midwife. I'm a child development specialist. I worked as a psychic for several years in Sedona. I'm a medium. I'm an astrologer. I'm a writer. Try to pigeonhole me into a box. It doesn't work. And when, you know, it's not just me. I would say that this is the kind of people we've been drawing to ourselves, into our practices, and drawing into our lives from the start. And one of the things that I think Michelle and I both sort of came to the conclusion of is that the people that we've worked with over the years, whether they are writers, whether they're business people, whether they're, you know, struggling with just abundance or whatever it is that's going on in their lives, you know, they've all been wrestling with that one primary question. And that one primary question is, who am I? And I think in part and parcel with that question is the question, and what am I here to do? And what we found in working with our clients is that there comes this point, and some of us reach it accidentally. Some of us reach it just by virtue of the clicking of the clock as we go along on our life's journey. Some of us reach it with great deliberation, but there is that place where you become conscious of who you are. You really get the picture of who you are in the total perspective of the world. You begin to live a life that in that moment starts to line up with that truth of who you are. And the minute you do that, you start to live a life that's purposeful and intentional and deliberately aligned with who you are. And when you are aligned and living purposely and intentionally, that's the place where magic starts to happen. That's the place where synchronicity kicks in. People who you didn't expect to call you. You hit that momentum point. You bypass the resistance and the struggle, and you step into this easy kind of path where that kind of naturally unfolds in front of you. So when we created GracePoint, what we wanted, our vision was to create a place, a vortex or a community or a gathering spot where people could find the tools that they needed to reach their grace point, that place where they figured out who they are, became aligned with that, started to create intentionally and live purposefully, and begin to not only do that for themselves, but ultimately to do that as part of the creative class and as part of stepping into a truly inspired life, begin to add that energy to the evolution of the world.
Beautiful. Anything you want to add to that, Michelle?
Well, I want to say that we're creating a community so everybody can come in at wherever they are. Mm-hmm. We're all both teachers and students at the same time, everybody on the planet. Mm-hmm. So we're bringing in master teachers with the understanding that even master teachers can learn and often do learn from their students, and that every student can come in and contribute to the conversation. So we are creating community forums, free classes, paid classes, mm-hmm. retreats, blabs, and all kinds of ways to engage in the conversation so that everybody feels like they have a voice and can really ask questions in a deep, safe environment to find out how they can live their purpose in a conscious way, without selling out or without feeling like they have to give everything up and move to India to do so. Right? It's
yeah.
Well, I want to dig into the title of this, the Evolving Economy, Creative Class, and Inspired Living. And I thought, let's dig into that. And one of the questions we have here is, what do you consider an evolving economy? So for either one of you want to take that away, what do you mean by an evolving economy? Karen. I'm just kidding.
Michelle, do you want to start?
So I think we both have a lot to say on all of these things. Mm-hmm. To me, the evolving economy is the understanding that for most people these days, they're not going to have one job, maybe not even for 10 years. They may have a career. They may have something they love to do. But even myself being self-employed for so many years, it has evolved and changed. Mm-hmm. And most people don't have a job anymore. And so what does that mean moving forward into the world? The other thing I notice is many people have more than one way to earn a living or more than one way to bring in income into their family and to create their livelihood. And so to me, the evolving economy means, what do the shared resources look like? So sites like Uber, but also sites where you can share your car, Airbnb, where you can rent out rooms in your house, is all part of this new economy. Yeah. How all of us can create multiple income streams, doing things that we love to do. That's part of the evolving economy. And also being more mindful about our debt and how we use our financial resources in the world. I think that's an important piece too.
And I think what I would add to that is, to me, the evolving economy is values based. I could get super political here, but I'll try not to. but Michelle knows I have like this I was running gun battle with banking, and there's there's so much that I think needs to evolve and become values-based, meaning the economy that's emerging has to be aligned with basic principles of integrity. You know, you can't get away with, I think, in the energy that's present on the planet at this point in time, especially with mass, the way we're connected, so well connected just on the internet. You know, if you do something that's out of alignment with integrity, and let's bring up Monsanto as an example, and I'm not going to, I have very strong feelings about Monsanto, but for the sake of this particular conversation, let's look at how much social media has participated in spreading the word about some of Monsanto's practices. When you're out of integrity in this new economy, you're going to invariably get busted. And when you get busted, you're not going to you might not get busted on a government level, truth be told. It may take a while for the collective infrastructure to change, but certainly the one-on-one, person-to-person energy and movement of information that's happening, I think expedites the collapse of things that are out of integrity. The second thing that I'm going to say that I think is really important in an evolving economy is people are so attuned, I think, at this point to what's real and what feels right. And they are beginning to make choices and buying decisions based on that gut level inner BS detector, that they can really sense when something's not aligned with integrity and with authenticity. And I think, the new economy is really calling us out to stand solidly in who we really are, and anything that's not authentic, or I'll use the word integrity, not just from a moralistic perspective, but also from a structural perspective. If you use the word integrity from an engineering perspective, it's about, does the structure hold up? Are you in your own integrity? Because if you're not going to be able to energetically sustain the facade for that long. You're going to burn out, you're going to fry, and people don't want it. Who wants to buy something from someone who's not being real?
I just wanted to say really quickly about that, in terms of even finding talent, right? In order for organizations to find talent, you've got boomers and you've got millennials who are very similar and aligned. I'm thinking as you're creating GracePoint, but boomers and millennials are very much into values and meaning. Right. You're not going to be able to just you can't just buy their time.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Very interesting. Michelle, anything else you want to add to that about the evolving economy?
No, I think it's being manifest all around us. We see it in things like millennials gardening, right? Who would have thought 20 years ago, city gardening, urban gardening, backyard gardening, food forests popping up. I probably shouldn't say, but I watch all kinds of strange reality shows where they're hunting and gathering out there in the forest, right? And people are actually living this way. Young millennials are living in huts and hunting and gathering. And there's a movement to go back to a simpler lifestyle, tiny houses, clearing out, decluttering, being simple. And that is all part of the evolving economy that I think is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that all goes back to values clarification. I think that from a consciousness perspective, collectively, we're sensing, okay, we've gone so far out here that we've lost connection with our hearts. Even my millennial kids, and I got 8 kids total. And, my big kids, I have one 6-year-old, but my big kids they're not on Facebook anymore. They don't even do social media anymore because they're so done with not actually having, human interaction.
And I just have to butt in there because my 12-year-old takes my phone away from me and says, "We're supposed to talk, Mom." Right? I love that. She's got it right. Rather than she's 12 going into teenage years of, I got to be on my phone, I got to text my friends. She gets into moments of that, but for the most part, she wants the connection. Yeah.
And how about the creative class? What do you mean by the creative class?
Ooh. Karen, you want to take it? You want to start?
Well, I'll start, and I know you can riff on it. So, the creative class is people who are in a place where they are authentically expressing their full creative capacity with, in a masterful way. And, I think the beauty of being in the creative class, and I think this emerging creative class, is it's having the freedom to follow the flow of your creative impulse and your creative energy without trying to fit into a box. I mean, there are certainly places where I personally, as a creative person, would never go. I will never make a music video. Okay, I promise you that. And I will let Beyonce handle that because she does that way better than I do. Okay, but it's that freedom, though, to not be limited by a definition or your training or your background, and to have the freedom to be able to do what I would say spirit moves you to do, or what you feel inspired or called to do in your place of service. And let me just say, when I say service, I mean the greatest service you give the world is you being you authentically and aligned with the truth of who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would just add that it's about bringing all of who you are to all aspects of your life, not feeling like you have to leave your soul, your creativity at home when you're at work, or when you're at home, not feeling like you can express some brilliant business idea. It's just, who are you in the moment? And when I'm talking about creativity, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I really feel like it's your own connection with your spirit, your source, your values, your soul. It's being creative is the essence of who we are as human beings. And we've lost some of that.
Yeah. And these are the kinds of people, it sounds like, that you're looking to connect with. Right? It's like, if this thumps for you, if you're this kind of person, then these are the kinds of people that you want to join you at GracePoint. Would that be fair to say?
And maybe not everybody views themselves as creative at this moment in their life, or views themselves as part of the evolving economy, but may feel like, oh, that sounds interesting. I think there's a place for everyone to find something of interest.
So good point. In other words, if I'm someone who maybe I'm not, like I said, well, I'm not, I'm not there yet. I want to be there, but this sounds like something that I'd want. Then there's a place for me in this as well. In other words, I don't have to be there yet in order to be part of this.
We're all students and teachers.
Right.
Absolutely.
And what is there, right? I mean, I hope, what is there, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think, too, adding to that, I almost don't want to use the word creative, but then I also like to use the word creative because it's a really charged word. I mean, how many of us, when we think about creativity, we immediately imagine, the big red pencil, right? You can't be creative. You don't have. And the truth is, as Michelle said, we're all creative. And part of that, again, that GracePoint piece, that aligning piece is, recognizing where you are creative, because everyone is.
Right. So that's a very good point, because it could be a scary word. It can be a scary word to people, right? It sounds like I've got to go be an artist. I got to make music videos.
No,
there won't be any music videos. Now, inspired living, of course, is in a way, I could say it sounds like I understand what it means, but I'm really curious about your definition of inspired living.
I'll let you do that one too, Michelle. Go for it.
So it is, again, all of these things that we're talking about, it's about living who you are. People used to throw around the buzzword authentic all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to live an authentic life. And I'd be like, if I knew what that was, I'd be living it. And it's because it seems so elusive. It's like we are who we are, and yet we don't feel quite in the groove. It's like there's something almost just right outside there that we're trying to grasp onto so that we feel more aligned, or so that we feel more authentic. The truth is, we are authentic already. I mean, but we may have a few blocks up, or we may have some, luggage that we're carrying around that we need to drop off on the way. But we are doing the best we can to be who we are. Adding that layer of being inspired means taking some time every day, if possible, to really tap into who you are, what makes your own juices flow, and live your life from that place. It doesn't mean being wild and crazy. Karen and I are both adults. I know you are too, Doug. We have children. We have to keep our light on and our family fed. This isn't about not being responsible. It's about being responsible in the joyness of being able to live like an adult and everything that brings. And so being inspired, again, is about tapping in with that place inside yourself where the creativity comes and you're contributing to society in a ways that makes you feel alive and whole.
Absolutely. And I think that the other piece that I would add is it's a life that's not compromised. And, there are a lot of philosophies floating out there and a lot of books out there, and I won't mention some of them by name, but I have some very strong objections to these ideas that, particularly, I'll say as a woman, that for you to have it all, you have to sequence it, or you have to figure out who you're going to outsource your parenting with. And, I will say that personally, I've crafted a life where it's not always harmonious, that's for sure, but there's definitely a life where I'm always seeking, and trying to be where I'm needed the most and where I can be the most fulfilled, but without compromising. For me, it was always an important value to do what I came here to do, follow my creative bliss, live it, and also be present full time to my kids at 3:00 in the afternoon when they get out of school. And when my big kids were home, when they were out of school, I was off and I did homework and we had a family meal every night and I would tuck them in, or later on when they were older, I would tuck them in, but I didn't start working again in the evenings until 7:30 or 8:00 at night. And I was there for soccer games and everything. And it never once crossed my mind that I had to pick, okay, do I do this or do I do this? I knew somewhere in here, and I hear this in my clients, they're longing for that with the right mindset, with the right awareness, it was possible for me to create it exactly the way I wanted it to be without compromising. And I think that's a big piece. Go ahead, Michelle.
It doesn't always mean it's easy.
No.
And it doesn't always mean that, okay, this is my intention and now I have to get rid of all the evil people in my world because they don't see it my way. It's not about all that woo-woo kind of stuff. It's about living every day with the totality of the good and the bad and what is and what you long for and what you dream of and how can you do the best you do in every day. Be creative, be inspired, and be mindful of how you live your life. Because I know it hasn't always been easy for you.
No, but compromising was just never an option. And frankly, I mean, as a parent, as a mother, it wasn't an option because I knew that I did not want my kids to compromise the magnificence of who they are. So they had to see what that looked like. And I certainly didn't ever have, I love my parents dearly and they gave me incredible support for my life. And yet I know that they gave up a lot of who they are to do what they were told to do that's necessary to create success and be good parents and be good citizens. And I wonder, who my parents would have been if no one had told them that they couldn't do the things they really wanted to do.
That's beautiful. As you're saying it, I just think of the quote Joseph Campbell talks about, how people say we want to fix the world and the power myth. He talks about people say, how are we going to fix the world? Should we move this around? Should we move that around? And what he says is just find what brings you, what makes you alive and do it. Because what the world needs is more people who are alive.
Exactly.
And that's what I get in what you're saying, just this sense of aliveness, It's not always balanced. It's not always perfect, like you said, but it's alive. It's a life that's alive.
I would say that it's a guarantee that if it's alive, if you're alive, it's messy.
Yep.
It's always messy. So.
I think we do have some sort of thing, especially in the United States, maybe the Western world in general, that success is a path. And then maybe when you're on the right path, it's easy and then you're successful.
Yeah.
And, I don't think there are any successful people or the people that I would look at to be truly mentors. I've talked about Mother Teresa before. I don't see anything about her life that looked easy, right? And yet, look at the change that she brought to the world and the legacy that she left. That's not for everybody, of course, but we have to keep in mind that the people we look up to haven't always had the easiest path laid out in front of them. And so that should be inspiration to all of us.
Totally. And I think the other piece is when you look particularly at Mother Teresa or anyone who's living an inspired life, there's joy. It's the joy of doing whatever it is they're doing that drives them. I mean, she loved what she did.
Right.
And you know, that's that place where, yeah, it's going to be hard sometimes. There, you know, think about the Olympic athletes. You know, you got to crawl out of bed at 4:30 in the morning and go to the skating rink. I don't want to do that, but they're there because they have that joy, you know, and they're in that place where they're crafting their mastery and even, you know, whatever that mastery is, it doesn't just end when they win the gold medal. Then they go on and they're teachers, or they open up gyms. Or if you look at, you know, any talented musician, you know, Itzhak Perlman still takes violin lessons, right? You know, it's like there's just this perpetual process of honing your craft, not because it makes you successful, but because you are in your joy with it.
Yeah, the joy of the struggle. You know, that there's a struggle, but there's joy in the struggle. I have a question for you, which is, I'm listening to this right now and I'm going, this is me. You know, I know I have to, you know, I know that I want to live an inspired life. I know I want to be part of community. This sounds great to me. How do I join GracePoint? How do I become a part of this?
That's a cool question. You can go to GracePointMatrix.com. And
GracePointMatrix.com.
Yeah. And you can join for free and get some free content, join the forums, have some conversations. Obviously, you're on our mailing list, and we're going to invite you to partake in other things with us, some of which will be more free things, some of which will be some paid things. Come on retreat with us, travel the world with us, or sit in the comfort of your own home and listen in your own time. And so there's a whole variety of opportunities there, but there's no cost to join. And we just are hoping people will come be part of the conversation with us.
Yeah, our vision was, when we created this, you know, we've been in the internet world. We've been in education for years and years. I won't tally the years. And, you know, what we've really decided after watching and being in this world of selling information was that the age of information is over. You know, if you want to know something, if you want to learn something, it's the push of a button away. You just have to know how to do the right search in Google, right? But what's really facing us right now, again, as part of an evolving economy, is not so much information, but opportunity. So our vision for creating GracePoint Matrix was to put together a ton of information that you could go and you can access for free from home. You know, the purpose of that was to get you enough information to bring you up to a level to where you could feel like, okay, I'm getting close to that grace point. I'm reaching that place where I've looked at what's going on with me. I'm getting more clear about who I am. I understand my archetype. I understand my human design. I understand what's going on with me. And I've started lining up my life to such a degree that I'm now ready to step into opportunities, because I think we're really entering into a new world, and it's a world of opportunity and possibility. And that's really what we wanted to bring people with GracePoint, was this place where they could step into possibility and opportunity to start putting what they already know or what they've been learning and studying, some, you know, for many of us for 20, 30 years, start putting it into a grounded, concrete, actionable possibility to start really living it and bringing it to life in your life, so that you can begin to craft an inspired life that's authentic, aligned, and filled with grace.
Michelle Vandepass, Karen Curry Parker, I was so excited when I heard that the two of you were going to be doing something together, because I knew that whatever it would be, it was going to be amazing. And GracePoint just sounds like such a much needed community and resource for people. So thank you so much, and it's just an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you.